Kia ora and malolele. A large percentage of the world doesn't expect my race to succeed in anything but sport and gaining weight. Our cultural employment titles consist mainly of factory workers, bus and taxi drivers, or even illegal immigrants. We aren't commonly known to rise above stereotypical views and obtain prominent positions like doctors, accountants, hotel managers, lawyers, a PhD, but only to become an underpaid employee. When you take a look at me, what do you see? An Asian, Polynesian, Maori, or Palangi? Do you see someone with the chance and ability to be something more? Or are you blinded by the stereotypical views mentioned before? Can you only see me as a janitor sweeping floors? A friend of mine once told me his story. He submitted a job application a month before the due date. After a couple of weeks, he rang to ask whether it's been received. The reply was, "Who are you, sorry? Where are you from?" And responding, "Sione latu from Otahuhu." Minutes of silence ensued before the lady on the other end of the line hung up. He never heard from them since. He recalls crying to his parents that he wanted to be white, Indian, or Asian because he couldn't get any job being a Polynesian. Conversely, the opposite may also be true. I see the surprised expressions and hear the shocked whispers to any instance when my poly peers achieve above the expected level. Sadly, we've become used to the shocked whispers and surprised expressions when we do well. Man is intelligent and thoughtful, endowed with powers of mind. Why then should he be influenced by distinction of color or race, since all belong to one human family? It's disappointing that we're so familiar with these stereotypes, that we let the opinions phase us, that we forget we're more than stereotypes, we're more than what others racially expect us to be. But I tell you tonight, you are all intelligent in your own way. It doesn't necessarily imply being academic, but being true to yourself and what you see through your own eyes. I believe that racism is created by what we see happening in society and what we learn as we grow up. You don't get delivered from your mother's womb and immediately start offending the nurses, do you? No, it's a learned behavior which springs from ignorance. When my parents moved here from Tonga in 1996, they were hoping for a harmonious and diverse New Zealand. And that's what they got. Aotearoa New Zealand embraces cultures no other country does, like celebrating Chinese New Year, Diwali, Polyfest, St. Patrick's Day, Ramadan, to name a few. At its best, New Zealand provides opportunities for cultures to acknowledge and praise each other. This was displayed when I went to the Lantern Festival earlier this year. The magnificent feeling of seeing a diverse city all in one park. How respectful we Kiwis were of other cultures and languages. Ko tahi te kōwha te ngira e kuhuna ai, te miro mā, te miro pango, me, te miro whero. Without a white thread, we make something dull. Without a black thread, we make something boring. And without the red thread, it's meaningless. But when the white, red, and black thread traverse through the needle, we make something atahua, talavo, aulele, konjo, kupsurat, pialiang, hermosa, shun, beautiful. When we work together, we make something beautiful, and that beauty is the oneness of man. According to the first Baha'i principle, hands may be black, white, yellow, or brown, but the hue of the heart is one. Hence, despite our differences in color and race, we're not animals or objects. We're human beings that come from the same origin. When introducing myself to new people, the second thing they ask after my name is what nationality I am, and always answering Tongan. Of all the countless times I've been asked that, the same response is given. Do you eat dogs? And I would like to make it clear tonight that if anyone decides to ask me after the speech whether I eat dogs, no, I don't eat dogs. Just because one Tongan man from New Zealand ate a dog doesn't essentially mean every Tongan in the world eats dogs. And this applies to all cultures. Just because gangs are found up north doesn't require all Māori living up there to associate with them. or just because Asians have narrow eyes does not mean they can't drive, or just because Polynesians live in South Auckland doesn't certainly mean they're fresh off the boat, or that all Indians own dairies, or just because we're fans of the show 16 and Pregnant doesn't automatically mean white kids are bratty. Even these days, it is still common for people to discriminate against each other. From a childhood memory, there's an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where he hosts a stand-up comedy at the Krusty Krab. However, the only way SpongeBob could make the crowd happy was when he needed to humiliate someone. He does this by offending Sandy as an individual, stereotyping all squirrels as having big teeth. Johnny Depp once said, "If there's any message to my work, it is ultimately that it's okay to be different, that it's good to be different, that we should question ourselves before we pass judgment on someone who looks different, talks different, behaves different, is a different color." As a diverse country, it is absolutely fine to accept that we are all different, as long as we're considerate of each other's differences. Let's not be quick to judge. Like the golden rule of Christianity, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And in the Islamic faith, not one of you is a believer until he desires for another that which he desires for himself. And in my translation, treat others the way you like to be treated. We can't stop racism, just as how we can't stop bullying. But what we can do is be an example to society, to our friends, to our families, to our teachers, to the ones who judge us. Let us not jump to conclusions. Let us accept one another's disabilities. Let us respect each other's countries. Let us praise what our peers achieve, because he waka eke noa, a canoe which we are all in with no exception. This signifies we are all in this together, and that is my dream for Aotearoa New Zealand, that our next bosses and managers are not so quick to judge before they read our CVs, that our children and grandchildren are able to live a peaceful life when no one is constantly looking down on them. Think of the brighter future where we are all intelligent, endowed with powers of mind, where there are no distinction of color or race, and where we all belong to one human family. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.